morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. And you are tuned in to WCPT AM 820 or 820 AM, however you want to call it, Chicago's progressive talk station. I'm your host, Mohammed Fahim. And we've got a caller on the line, and it's my good friend, Pastor Lawrence Blackfoot. Good morning, Pastor. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good morning, Mohammed, and congratulations on the new show.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you in the studio with us, hopefully next week, if you can get up in the morning on Sundays, when I know that you have taken a break after a long time. Folks, Pastor Blackfoot has been doing a lot of great work in the south suburbs of Chicago and Chicago Heights. I cannot begin to tell you the impact that this one gentleman is having on the community over there. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you do for us. And with that, let's come back to our guest in the studio today. We got Sadia Covert, who's running for judicial position in DuPage County Judicial Judge for the 18th District, Circuit Court 18th. Sadia, good morning and welcome to the Lightning Strike.
Good morning. Thank you.
So, before we get into the weeds, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background, and why do you believe that you are a candidate who's qualified to run for this position?
Okay, well, thank you. So my name is Sadia Covert. I am running for the 18th Judicial Circuit, Subcircuit 2, which are the areas of Naperville, Aurora, and West Chicago. So a little bit about my background before I was on the county board. So I've been elected twice to DuPage County Board. This is my second term right now. And before this, I actually did a lot of community work. So one of the biggest things that I did was passing co-authoring the amendment to the hate crime law in Illinois. And that was passed unanimously in 2017. And
okay, right there. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, so I was noticing at the time that there were incidents happening around the country and in Illinois to minorities specifically that I felt were hate crimes, but they weren't being labeled appropriately. And when they're not labeled appropriately, it doesn't become a problem, and it doesn't go towards the data and the statistics of it. So what I did was I tightened up the language of the hate crime law in Illinois and made it stronger than California's hate crime law. And I worked for a couple of years on that. Actually, I went to state representatives. I had rallies, I had symposiums, I had educational seminars on it, and and finally there was a state representative that heard me, and it was Representative Kifowit that helped me with that.
Okay.
And there was a woman that heard me, and that's where it went. And the whole state legislature, all of them, Republicans, Democrats, the whole legislature voted to pass this, and the government passed it as well. And at the time, we had a Republican governor, so you could tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Sadia. So that's what I like about you. I mean, you took the initiative to make a change. You did not wait for things to happen. And is that your judicial philosophy now? Can you describe your philosophy, and how do you approach the law?
I think it's very important. First thing is to have equity and making sure that we have equal justice, access to justice for everybody, making sure that people have their fair day in court, and compassionate justice, making sure that you are being fair, So I think I've gotten to know the people very well through my DuPage County Board position.
Okay.
And I used to have a race relations series on the county board where I was addressing, we were trying to discover the needs of different communities. So we would have different communities come in and talk about their needs, and we would figure out how to address those needs. So through my work, I passed a diversity inclusion imperative on the county board. That's the first thing I did.
Okay.
That's the first thing I did, because we want to create more opportunities for people in DuPage. And from that, from the diversity inclusion imperative, there's a lot of things that came out from that. We created MBE programs, programs for MBEs, DBEs, WBEs, right? Your minority business enterprises and all that. So we want to help people, push them up a little bit, elevate them up, and help people that may need that boost, and
Okay.
have them represented. So, it's
Mark,
very
do you have a question for Sadia?
Yeah, how about give us a little insight to your judicial philosophy, and can you describe that philosophy and how you approach interpreting the law?
Yes. So I believe in fair and compassionate justice as a judge. Now, we have some changes right now in the law with the no cash bail that was passed, and the
Yep.
Safety Act is coming up, right, September 15th. So it's really important to look at the personality of a judge, because with the cash bail system, you're going to have either the judge has discretion, so they're either going to keep you or they're going to let you out, right?
Right.
And that's when you really need to look at a judge's background and see what type of a person they were, what their work was, because people could come in, candidates could, talk a storm about what they'll do and how they feel, but did you back that up with action? What did you do before in action? So I spent most of my career, fighting for women's rights, right, at the United Nations. I was there in 2017. I fought for women's rights. I fought for minority rights. I fought, this is what I've done. So we have less discrimination. I want to get rid of discrimination.
Yep.
And that's what I'm working towards. So the hate crime law goes towards that, those amendments.
Hand in hand with those things. And
Yeah.
Sheila, you got a question for Sadia?
Yeah, I just want to know, how do you help with the avoiding the conflicts of interest? Because there's so many people out there with their agenda, and there's a conflict of interest. So how do you avoid, with that situation?
So as an attorney, I have to avoid conflicts of interest at our office every day. So when we get a new client in, I have to avoid conflicts of interest on the county board. So I'm very familiar with this.
Okay.
And you have to follow the rules of judicial ethics and decorum.
That's right. That's good.
Yes.
You did talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion now, right? What steps will you take to promote the diversity and inclusion in our legal system?
Well, I'm already doing it. I'm running. I am a South Asian woman.
That is a very good answer. Okay.
You have to run. I have a 20% Asian district. And there are 0 Asians and 0 South Asians on the judicial bench right now. Whether you're associate or circuit,
Holy
there are
moly.
0 South Asian judges, and we need to be represented too. So there's nobody, and there's nobody running.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's very important. You
Absolutely.
have to first
Mark, you want to go with question number 5 for Sadia?
Okay. Legal precedents. What is your view on the importance of legal precedents, and under what circumstances, if any, do you believe it is appropriate to overturn a precedent?
Well, I think that question is more for the appellate courts, because when you're at the circuit court level, that is your first trial court where you go to. So
Okay.
you're not really dealing with precedent at that level, but when you go up to the next level, appellate or Supreme Court, that's where precedent comes in. So it actually starts at the circuit court level. So do your job right the first time, so you don't have to get appealed, right?
Okay.
That's true.
Sheila, you want to follow up with the next question
That's
for
very true.
Sadia?
I just wonder about the steps that you take to ensure access to individuals. You mentioned your particular, minority and area. How do you have them have access, or people like those different minorities out there have more access to the judicial system and to be able to participate on an equal playing field financially, as well as just the legal system? Because there's so many rules that kind of hold individuals back. We talked about, discrimination and injustices. So what can you do to help individuals have access to justice?
I think at the court level, there's 2 levels to this. First, at the court level as a judge, what you can do, and then the second at a community level, and engaging the community to help in reducing discrimination. I like to say eliminating discrimination,
Yes.
so we're going to go with that.
That's never going to happen.
It starts today.
Right.
It starts today.
So, we have programs at DuPage County right now at the court. We have, we have expungement clinics. We have free legal aid clinics that could help people. We have public defenders where they could provide, access to lawyers, attorneys, if somebody can't afford one. So providing all those services, continuing to provide and making it clear that we have them. Because the issue is that a lot of people don't know, and they'll call our office or they'll call other places like, where do we go for this? So it needs to be people need to be more aware of it. And another idea I was thinking of is technologically having an app, right? Maybe if people had an app, they could look up their court dates, or they could get an alert for their court dates so they don't have to miss any.
Sadia, one of the things that I've noticed in the past with all these government quote unquote organizations, when I was working with Illinois WorkNet, the IDES office, the Department of Employment Security in Arlington Heights, they had so many resources, but they did not know how to market them. So the job seekers or the employers had no idea about the resources that were available, and that was something that I stepped up and helped change in that system over there. So great ideas, but how do you market them?
Right.
That is the question. How do people get to know about these things?
Right. And, as a judge, I wouldn't be responsible for marketing.
I understand that, yeah.
But this is how we put the word out. We have to work with different departments. At DuPage County, we got to work with the county board. We got to work with the clerk's office. We have to work with everybody and have good relationships and, make it work. So. And
you need to come back and talk on the radio about these things so that
Absolutely.
people who are listening to us get to know what is out there. Mark, you want to go with another question for Sadia, number 7? Let's see what we have to before we wind it up.
Sure, why not? Current legal issues. Now, of course, you've kind of defined yourself pretty much by your background, but could you define some of the current legal issues that you feel are important, and what is your perspective, and how would you approach similar issues if elected?
Okay. Well, I could talk about I'm glad you asked about legal issues and not political issues, right? Because as a judge, it's very important to be very careful not taking a stance. It's a part of judicial ethics. So, although, I had an opponent who, went and said that I was anti-choice, to people, and that was false, but I'm not allowed to say, you don't take a stance on it, So that was interesting. But in terms of current legal issues, the no cash bail is a big one. And that is my concern because there is judge's discretion involved in that. So when we have drug possession cases, how are they going to be handled? How are defendants going to be handled in domestic violence cases, right? Or rape cases? You have to know whether they're a danger to society or not. And you need to have experience with the people and working with the people on the ground like I have to know the different people that come through the courthouse.
Wonderful. Sadia, thank you so much for coming in. Folks, our guest today on the Lightning Strike is Sadia Covert. She is running for DuPage County Judicial District 18 in the coming up primary. Sadia, what are your thoughts on, virtual Zoom hearings? What are your thoughts on that?
I love virtual Zoom court hearings. I think they're important for status dates. So these quick status dates, I think we should have them for status dates, but for complicated hearings and trials, I think people should come in.
And you don't have to dress up for it, right?
You still have to dress up for decorum.
Okay. On that note, folks,
we have an event coming up too.
We have Sadia Covert in the studio with us. Any final thoughts, Sadia? I know that you have a fundraiser coming up on the 6th. You want to talk a little bit about it before we let you go for the day?
Oh, yes. My host committee is having a campaign kickoff. I am not allowed. I am not asking for money because I am not allowed to ask for any money.
Okay.
So, yes, you are welcome to come. Your staff as well. It's on Wednesday, September 6th at 6:30 at White Eagle Clubhouse in Naperville.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And with that, folks, we got Sadia Covert in the studio with us today. You're listening to the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Fahim.
The Devil's Advocate.
Brian from McWanaco. Welcome, Brian. What do you got for us? Hey, Brian.
I gotta say the worst way to die is any way to die before seeing Trump behind bars.
Right. Hang on. In my will, I've got do resuscitate until Trump's behind bars order. Please resuscitate.
Well done, sir. I like that.
The Devil's Advocates, weeknights at 7 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, looking for a winning team on a winning station? You found it right here on WCPT 820 AM. Join the marvelous one, Dan Marver, the fallacious one, Paul Shivari, Sports on the Couches, Mike Mercado, and yours truly, Devin Tingle, every Sunday at 9 p.m. for the Sports Cubicle.